I had a conversation with my boss yesterday. She goes, yeah, because she's getting frustrated because she has a parent living with her, and the parent's saying, oh, she's trying to find an apartment for her parent. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, it's haunted, it's this, it's that. And I go, it's New England, everything's gonna be haunted, is what I said. I didn't say, oh, that sounds crazy. I said, it's New England, everything here is gonna be haunted. Because everything's so old. Yeah. And the way she looked at me was so funny. And I go, I take it, before she said anything else, I was like, I take it you don't believe in ghosts. And she goes, no. And I go, oh, I do. I go, I like to make sure I have, like, docile spirits, keep them calm, burn some sage. I went way into it, even though we haven't burned our sage yet. Yeah. And this house actually seems fine. I just went overboard with it on purpose because I could tell that it was just... Yeah. Like, it was funny, but...
That is funny. I've never... I don't know, man. I've never really believed in ghosts ever in my life, too, but, like, I'm starting to come around now.
I think you believe, you just haven't had any experiences, because you... Are you telling me that you didn't believe through stories?
I don't know.
Or what would you have chalked those stories up to?
Her wanting to see a ghost.
Who wants to see a ghost?
I don't know.
Me.
Yeah.
No. I've had too many weird experiences not to believe in something spiritual. Like, whether it's restless spirits.
Yeah.
I have this theory that it's, like, even being Christian, I have this theory that it's not as black and white as people think it is. It's not heaven or hell. I believe there's spirits that, like, remain. Oh, with, yeah. Like, that... Like, most, like, ghost shows and stuff say, like, they have unfinished business. Like, the movie The Sixth Sense. All that little boy has to do, because he sees ghosts and stuff, all he has to do is, like, talk to them, get over his fear, talk to them to try and figure out how to help them. And like, to move on. They're restless because of something. The saddest one was the case where... Have you seen The Sixth Sense?
Yeah.
The saddest one, to me, was he sees this little girl. And, of course, it's really creepy the way they make it at first because the boy's scared. But then he, like, learns her story and he helps, like, the dad find a videotape because the mom was poisoning her. That's why she got so sick and that's why she died. Munchausen's.
Wow, that's crazy.
Very, like, bad. Munchausen's is very real. And I think... most parents nowadays have some degree of it.
Oh, yeah. I could see that. I forget what I was going to say. We were talking about... Oh, yeah. You were talking about how you don't think it's as black and white, like heaven, hell, like some people remain. I think it's even more gray than that. Like, what if there's, like, a whole, like, slew of things that could happen to your soul after? Like, you could get reincarnated. Some people go to heaven, some people become ghosts, some people become poltergeists, some people go to hell. So, like, what if there's just a whole, like depending on what you do in your life, and you don't even have an idea of what's going to happen to you, but what if there is, like, a whole world of possibilities of things that could happen to you after, you know?
Yeah. But then, I guess if I was believing that, I would have a stronger chance in believing that we're all in a simulation.
Yeah, we could be.
Something's controlling this. And when you're reincarnated, it's the, like, similar coding used.
Yeah. I saw...
Like, if you think about that, like, I love thinking about all different kind of alternatives and stuff.
I saw a meme the other day that made me laugh. That's like... It was like a simulation theory meme. It was like, what if when you can't get to sleep at night, it's because the sleep servers are full and you have to wait for somebody to wake up? And I was like, oh my god, that's funny. Like, when you go to sleep, you just go into, like, a different server for a sec.
Okay, so when we listen to music for bed, like the sleep music.
Yeah.
I have been having, the past 2 times I've had crazy-ass dreams. Both of them had a similar theme. Bugs. Really? And I wake up and I still feel like the bugs are biting me.
That's creepy.
It's awful. It is awful.
You know, now that you mention it, I've been having wild dreams lately too,
Yeah.
and we have been listening to that music more.
Yeah.
Maybe that does have something to do with like the dreams.
And I'm not against like the ASMR. It's just I feel like it's not as good if it's not right in your ears.
Yeah, I agree.
Like putting it on the phone between us it didn't do anything for me. It was more like
the music is a little more soothing too. I do like that. I could see why that would be a little more like universal, but
yeah, it's crazy. Those dreams, like I hate when I wake up and I'm still feeling it.
Yeah.
And I almost have to, because it's where I wake up and I can't just go back to sleep. I have to, like, fully wake up to get rid of the feeling. Like, I have to move my body, sit up, go to the bathroom. Like, because sometimes I wake up from dreams and I fall right back asleep, but my body isn't feeling whatever I had just felt in a dream. And it was bugs. Bugs I can't identify either. That's terrifying.
Yeah, that is weird.
Do you think we've discovered every type of bug that's out there?
No.
No way.
Yeah, no way. I mean, I guess it's what you consider bugs. Some people consider like lobsters and like crawfish bugs.
I don't consider those bugs. I'm talking about dry land.
Yeah. Yeah, probably not. Doubt it.
No, because some are too small.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm saying is it's so small, like, you take a square foot of land, you can find, if you turn up the dirt and stuff, you find earthworms and stuff, but really, if you think about it, like, in rainforests or other places, like, there's no way you could search every inch. You know, there might be, like, yeah.
It's wild to think about how much life is everywhere. Like, you just use that, like, that picture of, like, a little square of dirt. But there's also so much, like, fungus and bacteria and stuff in there, too, that have, like, life cycles and DNA and, like, histories and all that stuff. That, like, when you start looking into, like, microbiology, that's when, like, life starts to get fucking weird, you know?
Yeah, and if we're in a simulation, it's a very, very well-designed simulation.
Yeah. It
and birds are definitely not real if we're in a simulation.
I feel like if we're in a simulation, the actual physical world isn't a part of the simulation. I feel like our consciousness is the simulation. Like, the biological aspect of the world is, like, physical and, like, a mechanical thing and, like, a chemical thing.
I know that.
But then our consciousness and how we, like, where our thoughts are, our consciousness is the actual simulation aspect of it.
See,
our consciousness is the software, I should say.
Not for me.
Yeah.
For me, I believe it'd be like everybody's in a simulation. Like, the whole world, the whole universe.
All of life. Yeah.
All of everything.
I mean, everything living has some form of consciousness.
Because, I mean, honestly, even if it comes down to Christianity, like, there's God. And aren't we just kind of in his little experiment? It's like,
yeah.
If I get an ant farm and buy a bunch of ants, am I their God?
Could be.
But, like, that's what I'm saying is it's like, what if, you know, there's not a God, and what if it's just some different species or being controlling, puppeting a little simulation planet thing? Which I guess that would mean that we're, at the end of the day, we're all in our consciousness too, but...
Yeah. I think, like, the biological life is the hardware. The consciousness is the software. And, like, we kind of have an idea. Consciousness is hard to, like, grasp because it's a private thing. Like, you can only experience it for yourself. There's no way for you to see, measure, or, like, experience consciousness in even another person. But with that being said, like, ants, like, if an ant is alive, it might have some kind of consciousness. It's probably not consciousness like we know it, but it has to have something, you know? There has to be some level of, like, interaction and awareness it has with the world.
Yeah, because where else does the drive to get food come from, too?
Yeah, I forget who said this, but also, like, from what we understand, consciousness is produced by our brain. And our brain is just a bunch of, like, fatty tissues and, like, mush. And if, your brain, there's a lot of like complex like chemistry going on in your brain, but there's complex chemistry everywhere. And if complex chemistry is producing a consciousness, what else can produce a consciousness? Like, can an entire forest has a whole network of complex chemistry. That whole ecosystem does. Does that ecosystem have a consciousness? Maybe. Who knows? Consciousness is a fun one to dive down because it's just so unknown and it's so weird. It's so weird, and it's a fun one to think about. But
yeah. One of my favorite things that like shows will do or whatnot is like someone will be like in a coma, or they'll be on the brink of life and death, and it's that how much do they hear or feel or know what's going on around and what's in their head. Like I've seen like where a character of a show is like with their deceased loved ones or friends or even just people they know that have died, and it's like that them talking, but they're like, but I'm not here, I'm like just part of you, like I'm, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're looking at me like I'm confusing you, but
no.
Have you ever seen a show like where they go into that where like someone's trying to get back from being like they're coding on a table and they have no pulse, no heartbeat, but they eventually come back. Have you ever seen a show where they dive into that minute that they're in their head and they're dying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny because it's like, I wonder what that's like. And I bet it's different for everyone. I wonder if it's just black for some people, and for some people they see, what they depict as heaven or like the bright light or going away from the bright light. Or if it's just something like being greeted by someone who's passed away, and you're like having a conversation with them, and that person like in the show is always like, it's not your time, you gotta go back. You gotta go back. You gotta fight. But it always comes down to the same thing, is like these people that they're seeing and stuff is always just part of their consciousness. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah. Or it's like people who have out-of-body experiences, like, during that time. Like, that's kind of like the same idea. There's a guy named Cody Alford. He's all over, he's on podcasts. He's a former Marine Special Operations guy. And before he was Special Operations, he was in the Battle of Fallujah when he was, like, real young. And he got shot in the helmet and got knocked out and had an out-of-body experience, like, in the midst of, like, this brutal urban combat. And he said that he literally was, like, above the city, like, looking down at, like, him and his friends, like, just trapped in this house and all the chaos going on around him. And he said he, like, kind of was just floating there for a minute. And then he got sucked back into himself and then woke up, like, back in it. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, that would be fucking terrifying.
Yeah, do you know there's actually, like, people who, like, try and train their dreams to go that way? It's called astral projection.
Really?
So much like lucid dreaming. I've done a lot of, something that fascinates me is the dream world.
Yeah.
So lucid dreaming, sleep paralysis, astral projection. I've done a lot of research on, like, that kind of stuff. And mostly the paralysis because I've experienced it. And I think it's weird that people experience it internationally, all around the world, and, like, depict the same 5 or so entities that they see. Or they don't see anything. But, I'm back to the astral projection, much like lucid dreaming, like, people, like, will train themselves to get to that point where they can, like, either project out of their body, or the lucid dream is like having control of your dreams and stuff. And when I was trying to lucid dream, because I did a lot of research on it, the hardest part about lucid dreaming is you have to get past that sleep paralysis phase. And I can never get past it because it's always terrifying. But the astral projection, I won't even touch with a 10-foot pole, because I watched, it's also very, like, I watched a series that is considered horror, and they do a coven episode or a coven season, which is witches. And like the biggest thing with astral projection is you have to be careful because you can get stuck out of your body and not wake up and not get back. And then you're kind of just in limbo. And like, to me, even though it was a TV show, to me that makes sense. Like, what happens if you project out of your body and you can't get back in?
Yeah, that'd be wild.
The other wild part about sleep paralysis is I've had it a couple times where I'm like, I'm going to be late for work if I can't wake up, and I haven't been able to wake up. And I'm like fighting for what seems like hours. It's only a couple minutes.
Yeah, I've been lucid dreaming in the past month, like several times as well.
Where you have the control?
Yeah, where it's like I'm in the dream, and then something happens in the dream that like cues me, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. And then I figure out, I'm like, oh, I'm in a dream. Mm-hmm. And then I have complete control, and I do whatever I want, and the dream can then go the way I want it to. I've had that happen twice, and both times it's happened has been like one of them, I remember I was sitting there, it's midsummer right now, and I remember looking out the window in my dream wherever I was at, and it was snowing. And I was like, it's July. Why is it snowing? And then that was like I was like, that's because none of this is real. And then I figured out that I was in a dream.
So what did you do?
I forget what I did. I think I immediately went to go find a person because I was like, I'm going to go test this theory. Like, I can do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. And so I went to go find like somebody to interact with, and then I think I woke up or something like that. Mm. Like I found somebody and like I started interacting with them, and I very shortly after that like woke up. But yeah.
Did you cheat on me?
No. No. Yeah. It's been interesting too. Both times that it's happened, I was in like this house. Like it's not a house that I recognize, but it's like this. I'm like in this house, and both times like I realized I'm in this house because the second time it happened, I remembered I was in this house again, and I was like, last time I was here, I lucid dreamt, and then I was like, that's what this is, and then I was out of it again, and I was lucid dreaming. It's interesting. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, most people hit it accidentally, but then there's people who like try and train their brains to do it.
Yeah.
And when I was doing the sleep paralysis research, I was training my body to get to the sleep paralysis state.
Yeah.
Because I had a couple theories I wanted to test.
Yeah. That stuff is so fascinating.
Because, like I said, there's certain entities that you see, and I've seen, like, I want to say 2 or 3. There's, like, a demon, and then there's, like, the old hag, or the old man. I've seen the old man.
Yeah.
And then there is like a shadow. And then, so when I was doing the research, I was like trying to find ways of how I can just get out of it. You know, how I get the thing to leave me alone. And so I just was trying to find new ways. And so when I was trying to find those ways and I wasn't getting sleep paralysis, I'm like, well, how am I going to test this theory?
He's going to ruin that.
Why?
Oh, because it's...
He can be in the background, though. It's fine.
All right.
Or mute your mic. I don't know. No one wants to hear you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.